Today's episode is brought to you by Don't Be a Gunsel, more affectionately known as the D-Bags. Mr. Josh Williams has partnered with us on this and has become our main sponsor of the show. And a little bit about Don't Be a Gunsel. This is just right from their description on their page. We are farm, ranch, and rodeo folks who are tired of posers, fakes, and wannabes. So we carved out our own brand with a simple message. Don't be a Gunsel. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram. Don't be a Gunsel and don'tbeagunsel.com. They've got some hats and some stickers, and then they always share some of the best memes I've seen. So go check them out. Buy some of their merch. If you do, use the promo code BURNINDAYLIGHT and get yourself 10% off. That's BURNINDAYLIGHT. Get yourself 10% off. Get yourself some cool shit. Help a brother out. And so thanks to Don't Be a Gunsel. Go check them out.
All right, Daylight Burners. I am on Miss Karma mare, putting some miles on her out in the desert, and on the other end of the phone I've got Mr. Thaddeus Payton from Alabama. He's one of the listeners, and I decided we need to see how the southeastern boys punch cows down that way. So Thaddeus, how the hell are you, man?
Oh man, fantastic! It's an honor to be on the show, man.
Well, no problem at all. Like I've told a lot of people, I'm just kind of a broke dick cowhand that likes to talk a little bit, and apparently there's some people that enjoy listening, so it works out for everybody.
You bet.
Well, you're from where at in Alabama are you? I guess.
I'm kind of like north central Alabama.
Okay. So are you Roll Tide or are you War Eagle?
I think it's weird for me, but I really don't care about football. I'm like the one out of everybody else in the state. So.
I was gonna say I just knew that you could get into pretty serious fights down that way, depending on who you root for. But
it's ridiculous.
I thought it was pretty bad with Colorado and Colorado State, but it's nowhere near like Auburn, Alabama. Y'all are kind of nuts down that way.
I mean, you could lose family members over that.
Yeah, I think you'd be safer talking about someone's mama than you would be talking about their football team.
You darn right, man. It's like a religion or something. I don't get it.
I don't know. I enjoy football, but I don't know. I don't get it either. It's a different deal with some of those folks. But anyhow, so North Central. So you're still probably pretty hot and muggy pretty much all the time, aren't you?
Oh, you bet. You can't go outside without feeling like you're drowning, you know.
Yeah, y'all are tougher than I am. Where I grew up, it was, I think we received about 11 inches of rain on average, and I don't remember seeing very many average years. It's usually south of that, you know, pretty significantly. But if it got above like, I don't know, like 25% humidity, you know, everybody just feel like they lost 10 pounds walking outside, and we get pretty miserable when it gets humid.
Yeah, it's probably the worst thing ever. And I'm really jealous of you guys how your boots last so much longer because of the dry.
Oh, I can imagine your stuff would just rot just real quick. Like, I mean, we got to keep ours oiled out here so they don't dry out. I'm guessing you got to keep yours oiled to try and keep moisture out.
You bet. You know, a pair of boots, man, it might last 2 years here, and that's a handmade pair.
Oh, jeez. That's crazy. Yeah, if I'm buying I bought a handmade pair, and if they don't last me 5 years, I want my money back. But Yeah, I bet I guess it's just a little different deal down your way.
Right. Yes, sir.
So, I've got some Alabama cattle, at feedlots, over the years, and, a lot of ear, especially when you get down in that kind of that swampy country. There's a lot more ear than you'd see, in like Kentucky or Tennessee. It seems like, where they're a lot more crossbred with some English breeds. But I'm guessing down your way there, you get a lot of just like 18-inch ears on some of those cows.
Right. It helps us a whole lot. I went and picked some cattle up in South Alabama a couple of weeks ago, and those people are really starting to bring a lot of Bramer influence in. Otherwise, their cattle just aren't making it. They're struggling real bad, and especially like we talked about with the humidity. But it just depends on what part of the country, what kind of cattle you can run,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you run up to Montana, and everybody's herd is just like, like the poster child for the American Angus Association, or same with like Nebraska Sandhills and South Dakota. You get up in that part of the world, and it just every even little mom and pop with 50, 100 head, something like that, small outfit, all their cattle are just going to be like picture perfect. And then you get over in kind of my territory now here in the Great Basin, and then on further south down into Arizona and stuff. It's just kind of just a mix of everything. You got some eared cattle, you got some really nice blacks, and it just depends on the country, I guess.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know, like, for us personally, if we could run, kind of F1 Rayford Mama and put a Charolais bull on them, we get really good results off those yellow body calves here. They got just enough ear to make it,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can always tell kind of that part of the world, I'd say from like Arkansas and probably North Alabama, then on up into like Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia. I haven't dealt with many cattle from Carolinas, or a little bit from Georgia, but not a whole lot. But they're all just like a little bit of ear to them, but mostly kind of English or continental breeds crossed with just a touch of Bramer.
Yes, sir.
And they do well. They can get pretty waspy at times, though.
They can, but they sure are nice to work. I'd rather show one a hole and then take it than have to whoop one all the way to the hole,
Oh, well, the last, 3 months I've had nothing but Holsteins. And, you can put your hand on their hip and just walk beside them and follow them on up to the snake or the loadout chute, whatever, but you wouldn't dare do that with, something with a little bit of ear to them. You better be, mounted, or you better be, get your wits about on you if you're on foot.
Right. Yeah, them that's a little bit waspy like that, man, I like a horse that can take a pretty good hooking,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had a real big, nice, dun gelding that would dang sure work a cow, but if something kind of got the hook on him, he'd sell out from underneath it in a heartbeat. He didn't give a shit. He was self-preservation for him.
Right. I love stuff. I got one, and I think I sent you a picture the other day on him. He's kind of a big bay roan horse I got from South Dakota. And man, that's I really need to retire him. I just use him to catch stuff now, because man, he'll pull the house down, and he can take a hook and just stand there. Like, I've broke a rib on him before, not on purpose.
Yeah.
He'll just stand there unless you move it,
Oh, yeah.
It's nice to have them horses that know they can take a beating on,
Oh, yeah. That's kind of the way my Clara mare is. She's the one that lost the colt. She's not super big, and she stands a little over 15 hands, and she weighs about 1150 probably. And a little bit on the light bone side, not bad, but that old mare, she she don't give a shit. If she's gonna get blasted in the chest, the side, whatever, you know, she'll take it, and then she'll make sure she wins too.
You bet. You bet. Sounds like she's sure enough got enough woman in her there, don't she?
Oh yeah. She's definitely a woman. I mean, she when she's in heat, she broke my nose when she was in heat. She would not give her nose at all to the right. You know, she'd just bow her neck, and she wouldn't do it. And I reached up and kind of popped her with that right rein, and she threw her head. And of course, I leaned over a little bit because I reached way up there on that rein so I could get a hold, and she threw her head and just blasted me right in the nose. And well, okay, you win that one.
Man, if we got time, I've got we kind of did some day thugging there, and so I drew a short straw that day, and so my buddy, he brought this horse, and he's just a big old, big gray gelding. They call it 7 minutes, because the first 7 minutes you better have you a big seat. He's 13, he's not getting out of it, but after that 7 minutes is over, he's the cattiest big horse I've ever been on by far. And
yeah.
And so I rode him that morning. He didn't do anything but pitch just a little bit. I mean, you know, if you got a kid that sure enough can ride, he could have covered in the morning. And then we kept having some cows breaking, and that's one thing I don't like about short-eared cattle is that you can't really head them off like you can in Bramers, you know.
No.
And,
when they break hard.
They do, and these are some fat and sassy mamas, so me and my buddy, he said next time one breaks, just line it out and choke her. And, you know, nobody's going to argue with that. And so, of course, he beat me there, so I was just tied on because I was just going to pitch everything and get off before it comes tight, you know.
Yeah.
They said you wrote some on him, but I sure don't trust him, so.
Yeah.
He got there and got the headshot, so I come in and scooped up 2 feet. And it was my fault, man. It was so dumb. I stayed tied on, and he fell down. So I just turned him away a little bit there, and man, when everything comes tight, this son of a buck blew up. and you know, it was fine. Kind of one of those proud moments to tell your grandkids, you know, I was thumping on him some, and then he went into a spin, and so I felt my rope come around about halfway up my back, and my buddy just hollered bail. And I've never been in that situation, like, how do you bail on a horse you're covering, you know?
Yeah.
So I just dropped my reins and pushed off, and all of them had come out but my right leg, and then he was just on top of me, pounding on me. I'm pretty blessed that I got away like I did, but, you know, I think he stepped on my right thigh 6 times. And,
oh, man.
And so my buddy got off his horse and whooped him off of me, and then I'm glad there's a cow there, I guess, because then he started dragging me some before we got the rope cut. But
yeah.
I just thought, man, that's definitely one of those stories you tell your grandkids if you make it that long.
Oh, man. Yeah, I had one that I think I told the other day, but I'll tell it again. I was basically one of those feedlot safety videos. I lined out a calf. He was one of them running little bastards that had seen enough action that he knew what a rope was, and you couldn't ever just sneak up there and get the jump on him. I mean, he would just take off running. And he had a pretty good abscess there on his jaw. It wasn't really a lump jaw. It was a true abscess. And I finally got him lined out. We were headed across the back of the feedlot pen, you know, kind of parallel with the bunk line. And I just about got up there to throw, and he headed up towards the bunk. So me and old Dunhorse, he grabbed another gear, and I was just standing up to throw, and I looked up, and there was the bunk pad and the bunk coming up at a real fast rate, and I go to hauling on Dunny's mouth, and he's locked in at this point, and then he realizes where we are right as we hit that slab of concrete, and he locks him up, and there was sparks flying everywhere, and luckily he turned just enough to the left, and it pinned me up against that pipe, the bunk rail, instead of hitting the head on and throwing me over him, and I was just, man, I got lucky. I probably knocked a chunk, a chip out of my shin bone, but overall, I came out pretty well unscathed.
Man, I bet that happened sure enough quick too, didn't it?
Oh, real quick. That's one thing about being in the feedlot is you got to get a jump on something, or you got to learn how to sit back and kind of float a loop in, because there's just not a whole lot of room to operate. It's hard to get something lined out and get up there, where you can get a good shot at them.
Right. So, man, one thing I was wondering is, I know what the feed yard's like and the background yards, but we catch a lot of cattle on the side here, and because it's so woody, we use a lot of dogs. Is it like that out there in that desert country, or I guess you don't need dogs, or how's that work catching cattle out there?
Everybody uses dogs out here. And I've some of the best dogs I've ever seen are out here, and I know they use a lot of hanging tree and of course border collie, and you don't see a whole lot of Catahoula and those type up, or the curs or whatever. You don't see them this far north a whole lot. And then the farther north you get into the Airedales and what they call an Idaho shag, which I kind of want one of them shag dogs. It's I think they're like border collie, Australian shepherd, those type of dogs mixed with an Airedale, and so they're kind of an ugly, fuzzy little thing, but they're so ugly they're cute,
Right. Are they normally like gray colored?
Yeah, gray or black, kind of like belted colored, but they got that curly, wiry kind of hair like Airedale.
Yes. Yeah, we got Catahoulas and curs here,
Yeah, those, I think, from what I understand, they bred them to be a little more aggressive than like your border collies or your healers, and they're not near as timid as those breeds, but then again, they're a lot more likely to go grab one by the nose and drag them on out.
Right, yes, sir, and that's the reason why we have them, but it seems by the time we get the call to go get them, they don't care what happens by then,
Yeah.
You just can't ride in them woods, and really throw a loop on them, and so we just kind of let them dogs work, and if they break them out, then we can kind of line them out. If not, we'll just have to lead them out of the woods,
Yeah. Yeah, what's something like that pay, if you don't mind me asking? I've heard a little bit about you guys just going catching strays, but I was always kind of curious, is that paid by day wages, or you do it per head, or what?
I do it per head.
Okay.
Because, a lot of people, I guess they're a little bit cheaper, and I'm only, I charge, if it's right here pretty close to the house, I'll charge, maybe $150 a head. Like on a cow or a gas, but like on a bull, it sure enough gets on up there. I really don't like leaving my house for less than 200,
Yeah.
Which, I work on I guess you'd call it a seed stock operation anyway, and so we just catch a lot of cattle on the side.
I see.
But yeah, I think if you work by the head, you come out better.
Yeah, that's kind of usually, that gives you incentive to get it caught quick too. So,
you bet.
Get on about
that's
your day.
The hard part. If you don't catch it, you really don't make any money that day. So,
yeah,
that's where them dogs is kind of an insurance for you.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I've never worked with dogs a whole lot. I've been around them some, and I've been around them just enough to know that if they don't listen and they don't work, then they're way more of a hindrance than they are a help. But if they know how to work, as I've seen some that do, and it sure makes your job a lot easier.
You bet. I think my dogs only know like 2 or 3 things, and that's get ahead and get out.
Yeah.
And you know, some of them catchier dogs, they don't know get out real well. So.
Yeah, those can be a little dangerous.
They can. You know, we caught a yearling, you know, last week, and at this one place, and I've got this young dog, and he's coming along really good. I got him out of South Louisiana down there, and off a buddy of mine. And I mean, we darn near kind of had to stomp his head in just for him to let go. You know, he just liked it.
Yeah, but those Catahoula's, I've noticed they just they almost like the pain too. When they get into something, it doesn't matter how bad they're getting the shit kicked out of them. They almost kind of enjoy it.
They do, man. It's like they get off on it or something.
Yeah, it's weird.
You know, we always cross a little nose to them somewhere, whether it be like a plot or on them circling dogs. I like a little bit of bird dog in them.
Oh, okay.
Just like, you know, on them plots, on them hand crosses, you know, they'll just kind of stick their nose down and go find them. But then bird dog crosses, it's pretty cool watching them. You can cut them loose and they'll win cattle. And so then they'll, you know, when we cut, I think we cut, I don't know, 11, 12 dogs loose last week. And like all the Catahoulas kind of stayed with us. But I took one little bird dog cross. I mean, and she ain't but 2 foot tall. And she just stuck her nose straight up there and she was gone. We caught 2 heads before I ever heard her. And, she went across this branch and she was, I don't even know if it was the same place. But she found 2 pairs and her by herself just sat there and bathed them until we got to her with the other dogs.
That's crazy. Now, when you're catching cattle, is they just strays, or is it kind of like somebody just needs to go sell a steer, or how's that work?
Well, you know, I work on a quote unquote big place for here. It's just small farms, and so a lot of times they either lose their lease or they pinned all their cattle with a bucket of feed, and now the ones that's left, they don't know what to do with.
Okay.
And so they need them gone, and most of the time when they get on our trailer, we'll take them straight to the stockyard for them too.
Oh, okay, I see. So it's just they're usually they just need them gone.
Yes, sir. It's kind of the wilder cattle, like, and I'm not saying like Mavericks or comparing anything like that, but you know, it's just a cattle that they can't handle for their setup.
I see. That makes sense. And most outfits out your way are really pretty small, kind of almost hobby farms, aren't they?
They really are. You know, I think everybody and their brother's got a cow or 2.
Yeah.
I don't know what for. I'm not very smart on the tax paperwork side of the farm. But that's exactly what it is farming, you know.
Yeah.
We don't have a lot of, you know, real cattle operations. There's some there's some dang good ones down in South Alabama, you know. And they've got quite a bit of land in one spot, but here it's just broke up, patchy, small acreage, you know.
Yeah, see, and it seems like the further east you go, the more so it gets like that. Because I grew up kind of right on the eastern edge of where the open range type ranching really starts, and there's not a whole lot where I grew up, but there's probably 20,000 acres or so of open range just west of where I grew up, about, you know, probably 30 miles. And then the further west you go, the more it opens up and the more government land there is, which, like, I think Nevada's about 80% government owned. So when you're talking a big ranch out here, you know, they might have 10,000 head of mama cows, but shit, they're going to have 1 million acres or more of grazing permits. And so, I mean, when they always say making a big loop out here, and they ain't joking, you might cover 30, 40 miles in a day, just check desert cattle.
Right. I've always thought that's so cool, man, like not to sound like a loser or anything, but like, you know, you can kind of, and we talked about it the other day on a feed yard, but I think in that open country, I don't know, I've never had the opportunity, but I think it'd be easier to make them horses, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of that, and it makes you a better horseman just out of necessity. I mean, it's not that you're constantly, you know, honing your skills. It's more so it's like if I get bucked off right here, it's 30 miles back to the pickup, and who knows what kind of broken bones and shit you might have. So, I mean, it's like, you better, it's kind of like I was talking with my dad, it was way more out of self-preservation that I'm able to sit atop a buck and colt, than it is skill. It was just, I saw a big chunk of concrete on the ground that I wasn't about to have an appointment with, so I grabbed anything I could with anything I could and got back up in the middle.
You bet. Yes, sir.
And that was just right there at the house. So if you're a good half day's ride from your pickup, yeah, I bet you get real sticky.
Right. Yeah, and I guess you guys prowl some, don't you? I
yeah.
That's what you call it. Yeah. And you know, I'm so jealous of that, you know, because we don't have, you know, maybe but a few 100 acres put together, you know, at the most.
Yeah.
That's actually open. And, you know, like you said, versus 10,000 acres all right there together.
Yeah. And it's a whole different deal because, you know, the average little pasture you'd get where I grew up was about it was a quarter or a half section, so 160 or 320 acre wise. And especially out on the plains there, you know, everything's a grid. So it makes it real easy just to go a square here, square there. And it worked out real good. But then you get mixed in with some government, lease that's usually, they're closer to a full section usually. And then they're surrounded by a bunch of private ground. And then, like I said, the bigger, or the farther west you get, the bigger the plots become and the more government owned it is. And it's, you just gotta cover more ground, and usually it's because the feed's not there either. So they gotta, you know, those old desert cows, they gotta work to eat.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we definitely don't have that problem here. I think the scale is like an acre per pair, you know.
Yeah, that's there's parts of Nevada where you can do that here in these little valleys. If you got the water rights, you can flood your pastures and you know, and you can get some really good tall grass enough to run a bunch of cattle, and then also put up hay. But once the growing season's done, then your grass is done too. So you better have some hay put up.
Right. Like, do you have a lot of buffalo grass around you, or?
No, I'm not real for sure what the grass variety is out here. It's where I grew up was a lot of buffalo grass, and then kind of some grama, and then of course there's a lot of sagebrush and yucca plant, or soapweed as we called them. But out here, I'm not sure what the grass is out here. More than anything, there's just sagebrush as far as you can see.
Right. Yeah, but you know, one thing I think, if I'm not mistaken, like the grass or forage that you guys do have is pretty hardy, isn't it? I mean, it'll sure enough take care of one in the winter, won't it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's it kind of depends on you know, most of your grass out here. It's a pretty short growing season, and once it goes to seed, then the nutritional value it drops off pretty hard. And but you get that buffalo grass, and it never gets very tall. It's, the short grass prairies is where I grew up, and if you get buffalo grass standing 6 inches tall, that's a pretty good stand of buffalo grass, and so it doesn't get very tall, but the cattle love it, and it is drought tolerant, and those roots, when you can really let that root system develop, I mean, it goes down forever. I mean, it's the reason John Deere the plow was the steel tip plow was to break through that prairie sod.
Gotcha. I know. Here, we can buy cattle from, say the Dakotas or something, and bring them here. And even though we have more grass, the quality's not there. Then cattle really just, unless you got them turned out on some sure enough nice planted stuff, they'll just start dropping. So we bought some Charolais bulls from up there, and they look great when they get here, and we turn them out on plenty, and they just don't do as well.
It makes I don't know, that's the one thing about out here is even though you don't have a whole lot of grass, sometimes it don't take a whole lot to keep them going, and it just, something about the nutrient or the soil quality or something, I'm not sure what it is, but if you get some good, kind of rangy type cattle that'll, they'll go ahead and move on out, man, they do really good out in this desert country. They go find feed and they do good. But you better have your wits about you if you're going to mess with their baby, because they'll come back up the rope real quick.
Right. Yeah. I've never thought of anything bad about them good mama cows. I think we have bad coyote problem here. And so anytime you got some good mama cows, we sure welcome it. But now, like you said, they'll sure enough eat your lunch, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
This episode of the show is brought to you by Fogwell Horses. Kris Fogwell is the owner, and he contacted me after I made an announcement that I was looking for sponsors, and we agreed to do some advertising in exchange for some leather goods. Kris is a farrier by trade, and he is transitioning his career path into leatherwork, custom leatherwork, and with an emphasis on Western tack. Now, he's still learning, but the product he sent me is very good quality, and I was very happy with it. He sent me some spur straps, which is what we agreed upon, but he also sent me a sheath for my pocket knife, my Moore Maker pocket knife, and he said, don't look at it real close. It's just a prototype. But I thought it was just fine, and I think he does good work, and it's only going to get better. So check him out. His name is Kris Fogwell, KrisFog well. And you can find him on Facebook, and then his page is Fogwell Horses on Facebook and at Fogwell Horses on Instagram, all one word. And I appreciate his work, and I appreciate his support. So go check him out, Fogwell Horses.
So I noticed there's quite a few of you boys down in the southeast they're kind of in the buckaroo style roping. Is that kind of what you do? You rope on a slick horn?
No, sir, I'm not handy enough for that. I just tie off with a short rope.
Okay, you're more of a puncher style.
Yes, sir. Definitely. I'll take a cat rope or something and cut it off about 2 or 3 foot, and just kind of get them tripped up there. Now for them yearlings, we turn out quite, a few yearlings every fall, and some of that buckaroo style stuff is so much easier, if you're by yourself. That's easier on the cattle.
Yeah, it really is. It's a really cool deal when you get some smoke pouring off your horn, but that steer just gradually slows down, and then you go ahead and pinch it off, and then it's more of just a tug on your horse rather than a jerk. and then you can go ahead and let him kind of choke out there about 40 foot out and not wear your horse out near as bad.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't know what to do with 40 foot in my hands, I don't think.
It takes a bit to get used to.
I went to some of those clinics and watched some of those hands work, and it's just amazing to watch it. But I usually just pack around one coil in my hands, so.
Yeah. Well, I've known some guys like that. You'll hear an interview here on Monday that my good buddy Billy Whitfield, he's never dallied a day in his life. And of course, he's 80, just turned 80 this year, but he grew up on right on the edge of the Oklahoma Panhandle, and then spent a lot of his life in the Texas Panhandle, and he didn't even know what the inner tube wrapped around the saddle horn was until he asked his cow boss, and he heard that somebody would get their fingers pinched off dallying, and he decided that was enough for him. He's just not even going to learn, so he's always tied hard and fast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's the way I prefer it, and I'll dally too. I like, after I rope one, I like to get up there pretty, on a pretty short rope. So even if I'm tied on, I'll take a dally on top of my horn knot,
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's sure easier on their shoulders when you can get up there short, and they don't have to, they can just kind of rock back instead of, really almost pulling back when the rope gets out their ways.
Yes, sir.
But we use that tail end of the rope on them big long ropes, and then it kind of takes the place of the tie rope, and I don't know. It's just the more I've learned about it, the more I like it, and the more I prefer it. But I've roped basically all three ways. Dallied on rubber, dallied slick, and tied hard, and they've all got their place. It just kind of depends on what you're doing.
Yes, sir. That's true. And I guess for me, and catching these cattle in this kind of wooded area. If I sure enough get one around his neck, I can't drive out there for free. So if I'm tied on, it doesn't matter if the horse blows up or not. I know as long as I don't kill her, I'm still gonna get paid.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's pretty neat. Like I said, I've talked to a lot of guys down in the West Texas area where they tie hard, and it's kind of a mesquite brush where you got a little bitty clearing, and you better get him caught, and you may not have the ability to dally and then go crashing through that brush at the same time. So you just tie hard and for your horse a little bit as you go barreling through there.
Yes, sir. There's been which like I said, we've got some little cutter horses too, but I like to take those kind of big, Hancock horses that can sure take a beating, and that kind of stuff. That way I don't have to worry about them, kind of big bone, kind of hardy horses.
Oh yeah. Yes, sir. I know what you mean. That's kind of how they like them out here, but they like them a little leggier than, almost like a thoroughbred cross. But, there's plenty of bone, but, they want them to step on out, so they're going to catch a long trot at daylight and not come out of that trot for, a good hour or so. Just step on out and move.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I don't. On that horse I catch a lot off of, I don't ever ask him to lope unless we're going to one,
Yeah.
Because we don't have the country to where we can just catch a lope and go.
Yeah. Yeah, I was, I don't know if you listened to it, but my friend Erin, she was talking about moving back to Nebraska when she'd been out in Idaho and Nevada, just prowling big country, and then you go back to the Sandhills, which, compared to Alabama is pretty big country. But, she said you barely catch a trot and you're already to the gate. And it seems like you don't ever get even going before you gotta stop for a fence.
Yeah, that's exactly the way it is here.
Yeah.
And I've always thought how nice it would be to just go out and catch a trot on like a younger horse or something, and just go and go and go.
Yeah, those big circles are good for a young horse.
Yes, sir. I mean, I've got one that I picked up yesterday. I'm riding for a guy, and you know, it's just so much work because I'm in a small area.
Yeah.
So it's hard not to stay in the zone, but you try to just give them.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, you know, you're trying to do as much as you can and what time they want them done. So, yeah, it's a tough situation, but yeah, if you can find a spot where you can go just trot for about 10 miles, it does a wonder on their attitude.
Oh, I bet.
I was always pretty fortunate that way.
So like, I'm full of questions. I've always wanted to kind of go out there and cowboy for a little bit. But when you're out there and you're by yourself, do you have some of those stories to where you didn't cover one and you had a long walk back to the truck, or? Well,
I've never really been, you know, like the big loop buckaroo or you know, I've worked on some big outfits and I've been in some pretty big country by myself, but I've never been out like in the middle of a big grazing permit and had one throw me. But I guess my dad, he loaned this fella some money to go to shoeing school. And part of the deal was, when he graduated, he would ride some colts and shoot all of our horses for however long it was. And we had a lot of horses at the time. And, we had this little paint filly that we sent him, and she was kind of snorty as a 2-year-old, but she wasn't terrible, wasn't an outlaw by any means. And then when he brought her back, holy shit, you talk about just a wreck of a horse. And I spent a lot of time in the arena on her, just really riding her down. And we finally, I don't know, I probably put 2 weeks of inside rides before we finally went out and rode outside. And we had a CRP field, just north of our pasture there, and it was a half section with another half section behind it that with no fences there, so you could really get a trot and cover a little bit of ground before you had to turn directions and whatnot. And so it was me and my dad, and I think there was another person with us. And I guess we had caught a lope, and we were loping out across this CRP field, and damn pheasant flew up right in front of this little paint filly I was riding. And if I'm lying, I'm dying. That little filly jumped about 10 foot straight sideways, and I stayed right where I was when she jumped, and I fell and hit my ass, and she jumped, landed, and wheeled on a dime and never slowed down till she got back to the main corral there at the house. And that was I think we were 3.5 miles from the house, so it wasn't a terrible long walk, but I landed right in the middle of a yucca plant, soapweed, which you don't have to pick anything out of you once you collect yourself, but you can feel it for quite a while after. And and of course I was a young kid, so I thought I was pretty hot shit. I was a bronc stomping son of a bitch, and then here I get dumped on my head out in the middle of the CRP field on a little 2.5-year-old filly, and she did not even think about slowing down until she got to the house. So, but that was probably the longest I had to walk, because a horse threw me. But I've been out a ways where I've had one blow up on me, and I got real sticky real quick because it was a long ways to where he would have been going to.
Now that's pretty awesome. If that happened to us, we might have to walk half a mile.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, that's a big reason why some of these guys out west are so handy on a bronc. It's not so much skill initially; it's self-preservation. Then, of course, the more you do it, the better you get at it. But I think initially, it started out as just a necessity rather than a skill.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, you'll have to. You ever want to swing out this way? I'll show you around a little bit.
You bet, man. I might take you up on that one day.
All right, sounds good. Well, Thaddeus, man, it's been good visiting with you, and I'm going to go stretch this mare out a little bit, and I'm sure you got shit to do, so why don't you sign us off, bud?
All right, man. I sure thank you. God bless you. And y'all don't forget now, don't go check out Don't Be a Gunsel. And then, guys, just keep in the middle, I guess, man.
All right, man.
All right, man. God bless you. Thanks, buddy.
Yep. We're burning daylight.
You bet.
You know what I think? I think you should go home to Greenbow, Alabama!